So today we have Vincenzo, who is one of our current students.
I think they're in the waiting room.
We have changed a little bit the layout of the presentation because Vincenzo needs to go and attend his class. So we will start immediately with him talking about his experience in Richmond.
I think everyone's still in the waiting room, Eliana. Let's start again.
Okay. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today in our today's session. So we have changed a little bit our presentation, and we will start with our current student, Ambassador Vincenzo. He is going to talk about his experience in London, and this changes because Vincenzo needs to go to attend his class. And then after Vincenzo, we will start our presentation. So Vincenzo, I will leave it to you.
Perfect. Thank you, Eliana. Great introduction. So hello, everyone. I hope everyone is doing great. My name is Vincenzo, and I'm a sophomore student at Richmond. I'm currently doing the art history and visual culture major. So a little bit about myself. I was born in Turin, Italy, in northern Italy, and immediately brought to the United States and raised there. I did primary school education there, and then I completed my secondary school education back in Italy at an international school and finished my college years at an IB school. And IB actually really helped me to easily go into UK universities, so that was really good. A little quick fun fact about me is that by the age of 10, I had already traveled all the continents thanks to my parents' job. So I like to think that that allowed me to have a bit more of a global perspective. So what I love about Richmond is its friendliness. The first thing I noticed when I got to Richmond is that everyone was so friendly with me. And you know, I had been to other universities in the UK before Richmond, because I was still sort of trying to decide which course I wanted to do. So I started at the university at Winchester in a degree of geography, and then I decided that I wanted to do art history. I moved to Birkbeck in London, and that was a whole completely different experience, much more city-like, tons of people, very chaotic. But I found a good ground at Richmond, you know, where it's not too far from the city, but still reek of all the benefits of being in the city. Something I also really like about Richmond is that it has these all-around courses with this sort of all-around education where you can pair up your course with other courses, other modules. So perhaps if you're doing art history, you can also do a communications course or an economics course if that sort of fits your career path even better. You know, I'd like to go into the art market, and so maybe doing an economics module would help me in the future. The smaller classes also is another factor that creates a really friendly environment. You know, you really get to know all your classmates and your teachers really well. You can even go to the pub with them. You know, it's very much a sort of one-to-one approach, which is something I really love about Richmond. The dual degree program, of course, Richmond gives you a UK and the US degree diploma, which is so good because it really facilitates your chances to going to a US university, or even in your career. It can facilitate a lot of things. The student body is so great at Richmond. I really can't emphasize enough how friendly people are at Richmond, and especially the student government and people there, you really know everyone already. I mean, I've only been here for less than a year, and I feel like I know everyone on student government. I'm good friends with people there, and they really care about the students' well-being. Since it's a pretty small school, they really care about students' well-being, and they really want to improve the experience for everyone. And the chances of making a good experience for everyone is also much higher because of its sort of quaintness. The area is gorgeous and the people are lovely. Of course, as I said, you're in London, but you're still outside of London in a gorgeous area, very green, sort of, I guess, suburban neighborhood area, clean, gorgeous. In the pictures, the one in the bottom left, I'm biking through Richmond Park, which is this massive park full of deer and wildlife, and it's beautiful. On the top photo, it's me and my friend. We're in London, and on the right is me and my girlfriend. There's also time for romance in London, contrary to maybe the belief of big cities. So my experiences so far, at Richmond, I've had a lot of academic opportunities, which has been really great. In the year I've been there, I managed to land a place as a senator, gathering feedback from classes, and presenting that feedback to teachers so that they can improve the experience for students. Also, I got involved into student government. I nominated myself for co-vice president, and got elected, and it was really good. Also, I got into management positions in societies. So like the events coordinator, and there's continuously new societies popping up. So there's always place for you. I also got some work experience at Richmond through the university, and Mrs. Celoyan, who helped me land an internship, a really good internship, which I'm really proud of, at ArtNet, at their headquarters in Berlin. And it's really great for, especially since I want to get into the art market, ArtNet is definitely a great place to land. The social aspect is really great in London as well, of course, especially even more in Richmond because of its sort of close nature. There's plenty of opportunities in London. I can't stress enough how many chances of, of landing really opportunities, volunteering, internships, jobs, events. Like in the bottom right, I'm at a Gamescom, and you can meet a bunch of people there if you're interested in that. On the bottom left picture was I guess a protest at Trafalgar Square. So if you're really into social activism as well, London is a great position to be in. You're really on the forefront of social activism, which is really great. Of course, culture is really important in London. There's plenty of museums, and as an art history student, I value much being close to museums. And fortunately, from Richmond, I can easily go to Kensington with the tube and go to the V&A, etc. Travel is also really good for all of you Americans who have first arrived in Europe. Here you can travel for really cheap and go to gorgeous places like, well, the rest of Europe and of course the UK. So could you go to the next slide, please? So what's in the future for me? I'd like to graduate from Richmond. And after that, continue with postgraduate studies, which I haven't quite decided yet, but Richmond does offer some master's MA courses, so that's definitely very much an option for me. In the future, I'd also like to work into art galleries and auction houses. But I mean, the employability rate at Richmond is really high, so I like my chances. And I like to travel as much as possible in my future. So that's all from me. And if you have any questions, now is the time.
Thank you so much, Vincenzo. If you have any question for Vincenzo, please write it down in the chat box. And Vincenzo will be here with us for 2 more minutes. So please send as many questions as you have. Okay, so moving on. Okay. So we will start with a message from our Deputy Vice Chancellor, Ana Oliveira. She has a message for everyone.
Hello, I'm delighted to welcome you to Richmond, the International American University in London. We have so much to offer and there's so much to gain by becoming a member of our international academic community. Richmond's been founded in 1972 and it's the only UK American university. It has a rich history of fostering international studies within a liberal arts tradition. This means that you don't just leave with a qualification, you leave with a breadth of knowledge and a richly diverse international experience. It is also the first and only UK university to award its students both a UK and US degree. We are also really proud that our graduates have a commitment to the well-being of others and society. Optional internships are also embedded in the curriculum that provide invaluable work experience. Our undergraduates do some sort of voluntary work, service learning, in a structured way that helps them develop a sense of personal and social responsibility and prepare them for complexity, to deal with complexity and diversity and change. It also helps them develop a sense of community that many of our students and alumni cherish. Thank you for joining us today to hear more about Richmond. I look forward to seeing you in London, one of the most exciting cities in the world.
All right, so moving on. So we will cover today why Richmond, the Richmond difference, our program, our undergraduate degree programs, internship and study abroad, tuitions and scholarships, applying, and then we will move with a Q&A, short Q&A session, and then we will move to degree talk from Sue Pell. And then we will have admissions to go through more in terms of in admissions and what we will need you to have when you apply for the university. So I would like to start the presentation with quick COVID-19 update. We acknowledge that the current situation in higher education may concern you. So we offered a blended options last fall with face-to-face and online classes. This spring, all classes are online. We have worked hard to ensure the safety of our students by applying changes on campus, social distancing for all students and staff. We have a significant advantage being small university, which have helped a lot in monitoring these changes. It is much easier compared to big universities. We also have done an internal survey and 90% of our students said they feel safe. We monitor the government guidance and will update all the students through application communication. We are expecting to have face-to-face classes for summer and for fall semester, of course, always following government guidance. We very much looking forward to have face-to-face teaching in September. So Richmond is a unique university in the UK which offers students US and UK degree. We have a pioneering liberal art framework, and what is extraordinary about it is the fact that students will have the choice to select their major and minor, and plenty of freedom to pursue an internship across the globe. The liberal arts framework enables students to become much of a global citizen and having a broadened set of skills which will help them to grow as individuals through campus community, social engagement, and internships, and study abroad, and more. I'm really sorry, I think my computer froze. Okay, I'm really sorry about that. Richmond, as my colleague and our student would say, is a hidden gem in London. It is a university that develops students as individuals and as team members to face the challenging that happening in political, social, and cultural environment, but also the challenging in their future careers, which are evolving through time. All this is possible by giving them options and opportunities. As I mentioned, dual accreditation, US and UK degree, which are widely recognized by employers. A London experience with campuses in Richmond and Kensington. But what is fascinating about Richmond is the small class sizes aspect, which gives students opportunities to cultivate bonds with lecturers and their peers. Students have collaborated in research field or projects that lecturers participated or work on. Another key element of small class sizes is building students' confidence. Either you are outgoing or shy, you have to engage in the classroom, which teaching is not just taking notes, but heavily engaging with lecturers and peers. We all know that the first year of the degree can be daunting for students, away from home, new environment, new people, full weeks of studies. We all have been there. So to make things run smoothly, we appoint a personal academic advisor to each student from the first day they arrive on campus. This academic advisor will help students with academic side of things, picking minors, choosing options for study abroad, or applying for an internship. As a small university, we're proud to have a large, diverse international student body, which means that in a class of 25, 19 or 20 may be from different countries. We offer generous scholarships, which are automatically awarded, and I'm going to talk about this a bit later. There are merit-based scholarships that are available to all students. So once your place is confirmed, for example, you will be informed the scholarships you are eligible, and this will be deducted from your tuition fees. So we also offer internships, which are integrated in your program. They are credit-bearing, which means they are part of your program. We offer accommodation to all our new students, and also all students will have a choice of studying abroad with one of our partners. And also I'm going to talk a bit later about our study abroad. What all this means to you in practical terms, though? Well, it's 2 degrees, British and American. We have 93% graduate employment rate. That means that 93% of our graduates are full-time education or in full-time graduate employment after 6 months of their leaving university. As a Richmond graduate, you will become part of our alumni network. We have a large alumni network, around 15,000 from 140 countries. This is a great resource for you to utilize either for networking or employment opportunities. So in liberal arts framework, so what is the difference between a liberal arts degree and a UK degree? So in liberal arts framework, you enter undeclared, as we call it, and you don't need to pick your major until the end of your first year. This gives flexibility to you to change the major when you enter the second year. For example, you might take classes in economics, but also classes in psychology, and you find out that psychology is what you want to pursue as a career. So you can change your major from economics to psychology or any other majors. So we have a great range of electives. Students typically study 10 classes a year, and then within that, certainly you might have 3, 4, 5, which will be electives. And we have 20, or I think this year we have around 30 electives for you to choose. Also, you can choose a minor as a field of your study, which do not need to be related to your major. This could be, for example, a major in marketing and a minor in psychology, which will complement your studies, but also it will give you many job opportunities since you will have a better, a wider skill set. And also the duration of the program is 3 to 4 years, and this depends on your qualifications, where in UK university is 3 years in duration. Our integrated internship program are credits. And this is really important because when you do your internship, you do an actual work. You just don't do just coffees, for example, or printing. Where in the UK university, you possible do an internship, that doesn't mean that you're going to do. And of course, the most important, we have 2 qualifications, where in the UK university, you are going to have only 1 qualification. And as a liberal arts university, we have liberal arts core in this first year. So as you can see here, some of the classes you are going to study. In nowadays, it is crucial for the employees to have a broadened knowledge about different topics related to their work. For example, if you are an artist, you have to know about digital media, business marketing, and if you work in international relations, you may need to have an understanding of business and psychology, for example. And this is exactly what liberal arts is. Everyone will have the skill set listed here by the end of the program. So employers recognize the wide range of the skills that our students develop thanks to the structure of our multidisciplinary programs. Our graduates are attractive to employers because of their range of intellectual skills, their adaptability, their capacity to make creative decisions, and independence of mind. So liberal arts prepare students to be prepared for their future. And moving on our programs, just to mention what we have in our university, in the business department, we have entrepreneurship, international business, fashion management and marketing, which is a business program that focuses more in fashion industry, marketing, economics, finance and investment, accounting and finance, and international sports management, which is taught in Leeds in North England. And this is, so someone to apply for this program, they need to play football. And in the art and social science degrees, we have American Studies, Art History and Visual Culture, Communication, which we're going to cover a bit later, Advertising and PR, Media Studies. Again, we will cover a bit later the Digital Communication and Social Media, Film and Photography, Film Studies, International History, International Relations, Political Science, and the Psychology, which is accredited by the British Psychological Society in the UK. We also have the 3 years pathway programs, and this is only for the Communication and Social Sciences department. This depends on your high school diploma. So we need to talk with the admissions, and they will tell us if you belong in this category or not. And of course, we have a comprehensive internship program, which is one of the oldest here in London. Richmond is offering internship programs since late 70s. We have a pool of companies we work with, either in London, in the UK, or in other parts of the world. But what's captivating about our internship program is the fact that can be delivered anywhere in the world, not just in London. For example, we had the students who graduated in 2019, and he did an internship in Argentina, one in Europe, and one in London, and now works for Bloomberg as an analyst. The internship is fully credit, which means you need to create a report and a presentation, but also your supervisor will write a report for you based on your performance. So you need to have a GPA, you need to maintain a GPA throughout the years of your studies, 3.0. It will commence in your third year of your studies. It's 8 to 10 weeks in length. And of course, it's available in fall, spring, or summer. And as I mentioned, that you will need to create a presentation and a report, and this is because you need to get the credits, but also the employer will create a report for you and a performance report also. So we have some comments from our alumni, such as Katrina, highlighting how the liberal arts degree made her stand out when she got a job at Ernst & Young. She graduated in economics, and because she had this broadened curriculum from liberal arts, she stood out among the other applicants. Her employer believed she had better critical thinking. And also Miriam was an intern for MP John Crudas, and she is an international relations student, and she did an internship at the House of Parliament. So we have two campuses, so one in Richmond and one in Kensington. They are really close to, so they are around 20 minutes away from each other. Richmond is 35 minutes from Buckingham Palace, and Kensington is 10 minutes from Buckingham Palace. So Richmond is the home to all undergraduate and all undergraduate students, where Kensington is home to all postgraduate students. We also, I would like to mention here that as part of our ongoing commitment to improve the student experience, we are in the process of reviewing our campus facilities, and in the future, the university may move to a new exciting location in London, and this is going to be only for Richmond Hill. Here is just to understand where our campus in Richmond is and where Kensington area is. So it's not far away from central London. There are lines, like there is a tube line, and also is a fast train, the red one. The fast train, it takes like, I used to take that fast train, it takes like 15 to 20 minutes maximum. And of course, in London, we are based in London. So what to say about this glorious city? Where can I start? And I'm going to start with the facts. Do you know that there are over 8.4 million trees, 300,000 gardens and hectares of green space, which make London pretty much the United Nations definition of national park? London is one of the most multicultural cities on the planet. Over the last 7 years, London has become the bubble of the modern world. The city is home to more than 270 nationalities and 300 languages. It is the best place to be as an international student. It is consistently voted the world's best city to live and study. There are so many things and so many amazing things to do and see and do outside of the classroom. No matter what you're studying, international relations or politics, art, film, business, there are talks, events, and companies to visit, exhibitions, galleries, museums, restaurants, and more, and cafes, of course. All these experiences will complement the learning in the classroom. And as we said to our students, London is not just a city, it is a classroom itself. And we have our study abroad as a program, and we push students to do study abroad program. It's very beneficial for their future. This is a partnership exchange program, so Richmond students go to study at other universities across the world. So you are eligible in the second or third year, and you have to have a minimum of GPA 3.0. But what is great about our study abroad is that you do pay Richmond fees, which is great for some universities in the US where the fees are really high. And where our students could go, so they could go in Europe, including France, Spain, Greece, Iceland, Germany, and Switzerland. In the US, including Los Angeles, New York, and South Korea. In South America, including Argentina, Ecuador, and Peru, Canada and Mexico, Australia, and New Zealand. And of course, as a university, we have a range of clubs and societies. We have more than listed here. So it is advantageous for you. So what is advantageous for you is that if you want to start your own club or society, then you can do it. There is funding available. All the clubs and societies are student-led and student-run. So really depends on you and what you really want to do. So we have the Fashion Society, where they created the first magazine in the fashion magazine in Richmond, and they have done quite catwalks as well. Also, we have the Green Project Society, where they have been working with Mayor of Richmond in different sustainability projects. And moving on, we have events, of course, because we are university, and not only that, because you don't only need to study, but you need to have fun as well. So we have, and because we are an American university, we have the Halloween on Hill. It's really fun because we invite people around Richmond to come to on campus and celebrate with us. Of course, we have the Thanksgiving Day. We have the Honors Night, where we honor our best students and for example, our students ambassadors, and each programs award their own students, for example, business, etc. And we have the Spring Fest, also the graduation, which is in central London. And some entry requirements. So for UK students, we will need 96 to 112 UCAS point. For American students or high school or US American high school diploma, we will need 2.5 minimum GPA on a scale of 4. For the international baccalaureate, we will need 28 IB points. And if you have a BTEC, for example, we will need 3 MMM. So we don't need standardized tests like SAT or ACT. None of them are required. If you have it, then it will be a benefit in your application, but it is not required. And also we have, for the English language requirement, we will need IELTS, which is 5.5 overall and in all components. TOEFL, IBT, which will need 72 overall, listening 17, reading 18, and writing 17, and speaking 20. Cambridge, and for Cambridge first or advanced proficiency, we will need 162 overall and in all sections. So the fees for at our university, Richmond, the 3 years pathway, it will be 9,250. The scholarship that we give to the students, to the UK students, is 3,085, which means that your SFE loan will be 6,165. And you will, even if you choose to do the 4-year path, you will end up with less debt than a UK university because of the scholarship that we provide to the students. So the scholarship that we provide for EU students is 5,500. It is available to all EU residents. And of course, you have to achieve our university entry requirements. And it is valid for fall 21 and spring 22 entry for the entire duration of your degree. So for international students, we have the International Award, which is start 2000. And our scholarship for international students, they start from 2,000 to 4,750. So it depends from your grade. So all we said to the students, the higher the grade, the better the scholarship. And for the US students, so the scholarship that we offer to the students is up to $23,000, and they need to have a 3.5 or 4 GPA to achieve that scholarship. And the next scholarships is 19,000, and the next one is 15,200. The tuition fees for UK students is 9,250. For EU and international students is 14,750. And for United States is 38,000. And the RIASA program, which I mentioned, it is the sports management with football, which is taught in Leeds, is 23,000 for UK students, which include tuition, accommodation, and academy fee. For in EU and international students is 26,000. And for the United States students as well. And for the part-time undergraduate is 4,600 in total. And of course, I mean, how you are going to apply is by completing an online application form or UCAS or Common App, personal statements, which you have to write a little bit about yourself, about the program, why you're choosing this program, and how the program will help you in your future aspirations. A reference from one of your teachers or counselors, a copy of your high school certificate, and a photocopy of your passport, and of course the English language test, which might be, as I mentioned, IELTS, TOEFL, or Cambridge. So now I'm going to get questions. Thank you so much for attending today. And please, if you have any questions, just write them down in the chat. Also take these slides, take a picture. We post a lot of information in our social media. And if you have any questions later, you might not have any questions today, but maybe later, please do not hesitate to contact us in inquiries@richmond.ac.uk. So I have questions from Alan and asking, what is the experience in and around Richmond? If you're talking about the place Richmond, it's a beautiful campus, the beautiful area as well, very safe. And there are a lot of shops, restaurants. So Richmond has its own, let's say, main street. And then we have the huge park where Vincenzo mentioned that park, and it's a beautiful, I mean, if you do like fitness activities, you're gonna love it. And also for rewinding your minds after too many hours, long hours studying, Richmond Park is amazing.
Yeah, Matilda, I just add to that Richmond is in London, and it's sort of a suburb, but it's almost like a small town in its own right. And it has, as Eliana said, a really busy high street with lots of shops, bars, restaurants, cinema. There's a leisure centre. It's slightly more residential. It's quite green and a bit more residential. Like there's probably a few more families that live there, but it's considered a really nice, quite posh part of London that if you're quite wealthy, you'd want to live in. Yeah, it's a really nice area and lots of people have heard of it. I think we're going to hand over to Sue now. Hi, Sue. Eliana, I'll go back to you.
Hi, Sue. How are you doing?
Hi, good. How is everyone today?
Very well. We have it's a sunshine in London.
Yeah, those
It's
are the best
amazing.
days.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to try to share my screen. Just want to make sure. I
So
feel like
Sue is, you are going to introduce yourself. So just a little bit, Sue is the program leader for communications programs. And we are really happy to have you here today.
Thank you. So that's right. So I'm an associate professor in communications. I teach on classes like foundations in media studies. I mainly teach things like mass communication and society. And I've also been teaching classes about social research. So my work really kind of has that interest in the relationship between media and society. And increasingly, of course, those questions become concerned with issues of the digital society. So that's one of the other classes that I've been working with as well. So I had problems last time. I think that Adam has my slides, so it might just be easiest to put for you to
would you
put
like
them
me
up.
to do? I can share that.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure why I can never get them up, but
okay. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just going to be walking through some of the different programs that we teach at Richmond's in terms of the communications degree. So we have different types of things that you can take if you're going to be studying issues around communication. So I'll be looking at some of those. So I guess maybe before, because I think there's about six of you here. I just wanted to, so I'm going to be talking about PR and marketing. I'm going to be looking at media studies, and I'm also going to be talking about the digital communications and social media. So I just thought maybe I could hear from the students. First of all, if you would like to let me know what degrees you're thinking about. And then, as I'm talking about the different programs and what you might expect from them, you can also be asking me questions or putting things in the chat as well. But maybe if people could just go around and let me know where you are and what you're thinking of studying or what you're interested in hearing about. Alistair, would you mind letting us? Or Mona? There's an Alexander and Alan. Is anyone willing to let me know about what you're looking at or what you're interested in?
Stu, I know, I am unmuted. Yeah, I know we definitely have a student here who is an applicant for the communications PR and advertising and PR.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'll go through them. Maybe you're all still trying to make up your mind. I see that Alan is saying that he's interested in looking at film and photography. And I'm glad that you're here as well today, because I'll be talking about some of those crossovers that we have with areas of media production and the more artistic side and expressive side, creative side of media. Alexander's interested in the media studies program. So we'll talk about all of these because one of the things that I'll be really emphasizing is the relationships that these have with each other. And really that's one of the main advantages of studying at a place like Richmond, in that it has a liberal studies approach that you get to specialize your degrees. You get to, in some ways, tailor your program to the interest that you have. So I'll be looking at these different particular programs: media studies, PR and advertising, and social media and digital communication. But what you'll see is across communications, and this is the same for linking up with things like film and photography as well, that there's this shared curiosity with creative expression, with contributions that people can make and want to make towards cultural life, as well as people's desire to make a public impact. So these are some of the things that really motivate students for taking these sorts of disciplines. So if we go to the one that has the three different programs that I'll be looking at, what we see when we're looking at media studies, PR and advertising, and the digital communications and social media degrees is that they really have an interdisciplinary focus. So that means that you're not just thinking about communication or media or advertising from a single lens. So it's not that you'll come out of Richmond only knowing advertising and nothing else. It means that you get a broad understanding of the context in which these fields are operating. So when you study media studies, you think about it in terms of communications, but you'll also be thinking about it in terms of psychology. You'll be thinking about it in terms of economics and politics and history. So that's what we mean when we're talking about interdisciplinary, is that we bring all of these different things together in order to think about it. One of the things that Richmond does really well as well is that it's very much industry focused. So it really draws from the London context in order to think about what are people doing in these fields right now. So where are people working? What are they engaged with? What are they thinking about? And how can we link our students up to those different industries? So we'll be working through this. So I'm going to show you an example of some of the courses that we offer within the communications program. So to give you a sense of what kind of classes you might be taking. So this is me in my longer haired days. And this is one of the classes that we teach at in our second year for students. So you can take it depending on how you're entering entering Richmond. So if you might be bringing in credits already, so you might take a class like this right away, or you might take it in your second, potentially third year. One example is this class, Digital Society. So in this class, where really the students are exploring how digital technologies, like so smart technologies, things like the internet, things like smartphones, things like AI, how this is really making an impact on society. And it's trying to think about this relationship between these digital technologies and transformations in the ways that we relate to each other, the ways that we understand each other, and trying to think about this information society and where we're going. So it really, in some ways, is a future-looking class to think about where have we come from, but what are some of the ways in which society is being transformed, and how can you make an impact in that sort of way? So this gives you a lot of the theoretical concepts. It's a class that you would take if you're interested in social media and digital communication, but there's also the development of a digital minor at Richmond, or that's been being proposed. So it also links into those sorts of degrees. So again, depending on the types of interest that you have, this might be a class that you would be wanting to take. Another example that you would take at the second year level is the Introduction to Visual Culture. So this is taught by Dr. Nicola Mann, and it's been taught by other experts in the field. And this course is really trying to think about the visual world, like increasingly the way in which we understand, engage, and know the world is what we see, right? What we're seeing on our phones, what we see around us, what we see in the media, what we see in the cities and the towns that we live in. So this class is really thinking about the construction of meaning. It's thinking about and gives us tools to understand culture, understand creative expression, understand how to make a message connect with people, and also how to be a critical reader. So it's not just how we understand the visual world, but how we can critically engage with it as well, and be engaged with it. So this really gives us a bit more of the cultural side of media and trying to understand communication in that sort of way. One of the things that's really, I guess, fun and that has been really appreciated about by students who have taken this class is the field trips that that students have been able to go on. So for example, you can see the picture here is of the Shoreditch graffiti tunnels. So there's field trips that will go and see that. There's also field trips that go to the different museums and galleries in London as well. So looking not just at like media, like film, but also, getting into things like photography, getting into things like street art and those sorts of things. So thinking about the visual world in a really broad way. So the first two have been a bit more of the conceptual sides, really building up your understanding, building up your knowledge of the field, the theories that people use, concepts that you can use to engage with them. And we also have a lot of practical classes as well. So the third example of a class that you might take in the communications program, and you can take these across the different ones, is the Introduction to Writing for Media. So this has been taught by, for example, Dr. Eunice Goes, and she is an active and engaged research member at Richmond. She is a really regular contributor to places like the BBC, and she's been talking about and has been a journalist covering British political life for the last 20 years. So she teaches students how to write for the media. And this is different types of media platforms. So it might be, as this says here, learning basics of news stories, but it's also going to be about writing press releases and promotional materials that can be tailored towards print media, digital media, audio media. I know that students in the past have had to do podcasts and things like this in this class. So it gives you a way in which to engage with the different techniques that you need in order to be heard in the really, I guess, competitive media environment out there. So this class is really focused on giving students both practical and professional skills in the area of writing. So you can see how these classes are working together, that you are building this conceptual understanding and then being able to use that in practical ways to write news stories, to write press releases, and to be able to understand how to communicate with your different audiences. And what's the most effective way to do that. So this is a class that would also be taken by students in their second and third year. And then the last example is creating digital images. And so this has been taught by Dr. Sam Brooker, who's an expert in design and digital media. And he's also an expert in visual storytelling and narrative and those sorts of things. So this is looking about how can we use design, how can we use digital stories in order to convey meaning to people. So this is a really nuts and bolts sort of design class that is looking and teaching people how to use software programs such as Photoshop and Illustrator. And these are really the industry standards that people are using. And it's gives people the actual tools to say that, yes, I can, create these images, I can make these sorts of web pages for you, and giving you some of the design elements. So like, why would you use a specific font? Why would you use a certain sort of background? Those sorts of things. It gives you a means to express yourself creatively and also persuasively. So I think this is what's really interesting about the communication program, is that it's both thinking about critical thinking and creativity, but also persuasiveness. So I think it's really been an interesting mix, being able to have all of these degrees sitting next to each other. So so these are examples of the different types of courses and different types of areas that you would be taking classes in. And so I'm going to run you through what the different degrees are. So again, I hope I'm not going too quickly. If I am, please ask me questions. You can pop in and ask questions, or you can also ask questions in the chat if you're interested. So the media studies degree really is thinking about, so someone who wants to take media studies would be someone who's really interested in thinking about what is the role that media takes in society? How does it create meaning? How does it, what role does it have in meaning? And really trying to explore the relationships between different types of media. So it might be mass media things like radio, television, film, newspapers. It might be digital and social media, but how does media connect with audiences, and how is the technology related into this? And so what's this relationship between audiences and the messages that they receive from the different media that they have. And one of the key areas that we're interested in thinking about is what kind of effect does media have? So it really is focused on current issues in the area of media. So looking at things like Black Lives Matter. Why are they like, how do they communicate themselves through hashtag campaigns, things like that? We look at issues like fake news. How does the current media environment allow for these sorts of phenomena to happen? How does critical thinking and critical media studies really lend to challenging these types of practices? So media studies is really going to help prepare students in the areas of critical thinking, giving them aesthetic sensibilities, professional and leadership sort of skills as well. So if you're going to be in media studies, you're going to take some, there's core classes that are related to each degree. But again, as I said, you can mix these with the types of electives that you might take as a liberal arts student or being at a liberal arts institution. So key classes that you would take would be things like intercultural communication, introduction to visual culture, which I described before, at the more senior levels. So in the way the degrees are structured is that you take more survey sorts of courses in the first 2 years that lets you know the field more broadly, and then it gets more specific as you advance in your studies. So in the upper levels, you would take things like mass communication in society. That helps think about this question about the effect that media has on society. You might take political communication, which is really thinking about the role that media has in politics, the ways in which social movements, governments, corporations, nonprofits are using communication to connect with their audiences, their users, their constituents. And again, some of these issues that we were talking about, like social movements like Black Lives Matter, Me Too movement, even more conventional politics as well would be dealt with in there. And also final year courses would be things like new media, which is really trying to think in much more specificity, what does it mean to have the introduction of new types of media? So everything has been a new media at one point. Radio was new media, television was new media. Now we have social media, which is considered new, but it's giving you the skills to think about these in their context and their impact. So these are some of examples that of courses that you might be taking, but of course, this gives you a really a core in which to understand these issues of media and their broader context. But you can also mix these depending on the types of interests that you have. So things that students might do if they have sort of more media production sorts of interest, they might accompany and mix these classes with things like web design or photojournalism. Lots of students, there's a lot of overlap between media studies and film studies. So students also take things like international cinema or gender and film, might be other things that, depending on your interest, that you might take electives in. People also have often, another overlap comes in the area of American studies as well. So one of the courses that overlaps between the degrees would be something like American TV dramas. So a really fun class to make you think about, you know, The Sopranos, what's interesting about that, and Stranger Things and all of those sorts of things. But you might also mix it with things like international relations and psychology, those sorts of dimensions. So it's all really, you get to specialize it, I think, is really what the take home with all of these degrees is going to be. But this gives you real knowledge about the media industry. It gives you insight into how these industries work. It gives you intercultural skills so that you can work within a global context, which, you know, London is. So that's media studies. Some people who take media studies tend to be the ones that are really are sometimes a bit more interested in the research side of things. So often students will go on to further education as well if you're doing media studies. So that's one of the ways to think about it. PR and advertising tends to be very much the career-oriented side of the communications program, and it really mixes theory with practice. So again, it's going to draw from some of the classes that I've described already, but it's going to have a much more focused emphasis on training students to be workers within the persuasive industries. So some of the key courses that you would be taking in here is like the one I described, the introduction to writing for the media, but then there's also a lot of courses that are going to be specifically tailored to introducing and specializing students in PR and advertising. So for instance, you would take classes like PR and self-presentation. So this is helping you create proposals and do pitches, which is going to be a key skill if you're going to be trying to represent people and trying to tell their stories for them. There is creation of advertising and PR campaigns. And then also things at the upper level will be things like taking media ethics and law, making sure that all of our students are coming out with that real integrity as media producers themselves and media creators themselves. So this really gives you a sense of some of the principles behind advertising, some of the principles behind being a persuasive communicator, how to build up public relations campaigns. And of course, these are skills that can be used in the private sector, so working for corporations and things, but they've also been used in the public sector, working for governments and also nonprofits and working for international organizations that are seeking to get a message out there. And you can think about how critical things like PR are in the current moment with things like the COVID crisis that's been happening. So how do we effectively and clearly communicate with people, and how do we change people's behaviors? How do we inform people? So there's lots of different dimensions. So PR and advertising, some of the ways in which that field is developing is really thinking much more seriously about forms of crisis communication and how do we manage that. So that's an area that people have been really interested in this side of things. So one of the things, often what will happen with students who are in the PR and advertising side of the degree, they often mix their degree with other types of programs and courses that are offered at Richmond, such as marketing and international business courses. You can take minors, and I think that this has been discussed or will be discussed. And so one of the things that people often take will be business minors and international business minor. So, having that skill set is highly sought after. You can take courses in consumer behavior, digital marketing and social media, luxury brand management. So these are things that, they really complement each other. So both having a really business understanding of the communications world with a really persuasive communication writing side of things. One of the things I also want to point out is that Richmond is a member of the PR and Communications Association. So that means that students have access to some of, or one of Europe's largest and most influential PR and communications membership bodies. So that means that they have access to different types of training, conferences, and events within the communications profession. So that's a great asset to students who go through this program. And lastly, I'll just talk about our newest major that has started, which is the digital communications and social media. So this again, it comes out of the changes in the communications field and the interests of faculty at Richmond itself. And this one is really, again, it's thinking about these relationships between understanding the field and the world of communication, but making sure that students have the skills in order to work within particularly the media production side of the communication and cultural industries. So this degree really intersects questions of digital media production. So how do we actually do that? And, in some ways we're all doing that all the time, the way that we're posting on Instagram and things like that. We know how to alter images and all of that, but it gives us a more professional skill set in order to do that. So it mixes this digital media production, it mixes it with theories of communication, theories of society, but also, again, it has that edge of having the professional skills that are actually sought after within the creative industries and the media world in more general. So key courses that you would take in this would be things like the visual culture class and the digital society class, that which was talked about already, but also getting into the much more coding and software side of things. So looking at coding, looking at data analysis for social media. So, it's not just that you're going to know how to make something, you're going to know that it's effective as well. You're going to be able to evaluate what you're doing there, which is going to be critical for working within the culture industries in general. You'll draw from things like principles of PR and advertising, but also things like the creating digital images. You're going to be looking at coding, content, and context. So thinking about these relationships, and then the more design elements as well, like web design, photojournalism. How do you tell stories using social media and digital communications? So what we have then, people who leave the expectation is people in the digital communication and social media degree are going to be learning the role that digital media and communication have in society and how to make an impact, both conceptually how to do that, but also practically. So across all of these programs, as I said, they're related to each other. They're not in silos, they're in conversation with each other. And I think that's one of the real strengths that communications has, is, again, that interdisciplinary conversation between professionals in the industry, between academics thinking critically about these, and also the expressive artists who are working in these fields. And London is the perfect place to study these, because London itself is the classroom, and I'm sure that that idea has been communicated to you already, but particularly in the field of media, communications, culture industry, London is just such an advantage to being here. It means that we can get guest lecturers who are leaders in their field, who are cutting edge, and it's just a really exciting opportunity, I think, for students. I guess the other advantage in being in a place like London to study and at Richmond to be studying communications and media is the internship programs that we have. Have you been introduced to internships in general yet? Yeah. So as you know, internships is the ability to gain work experience while also gaining academic credit for it. So most students in the communications program takes it in between their second last and last semesters. And this is a real advantage because it gives you all of these connections and experiences right before you're about to leave the university and go into the work world. So, and it's supported and it's connected. So we have a number of different internship programs that communication students have taken. And their internships really draw from their media production skills. They draw from their critical thinking skills, their ability to frame and target audiences. All of these different things have been utilized by different industries and businesses within London. So there should be a slide for this one, I think. So some of the examples of internships that media studies students have taken have been, for example, students have been placed with KCW Today, which is a local newspaper where internships have been able to write their own articles and have those published. There's the example here of Epicurean Life magazine, where interns have been able to do research and write articles, cover specific events. So again, being out in the field, doing the work of media content producers, that sort of thing. They've worked for Together TV, which is a local TV channel where the interns have been able to be involved with scheduling programs, of editing, planning, and marketing programs. So you can see how that draws from across the breadth of skills that communication students can gather. And also featured here as well, Flux Broadcasting, which is a live broadcasting company where interns have been able to use the equipment and attend events. And really, these internships have given students really hands-on experience to really feel what it's like to work in the industry. On the advertising and PR side, again, you know, it's all happening here. So people have been placed within the CCDPR corporation organization. And this is a leader in the field of PR, persuasive communication, and professional public relations. So one of the things that we see with our students is that the internships are often also getting them jobs. So last spring, there was a student who did their internship at the CCD and was given a full-time position after their internship. So, you know, we're very proud of our students and the skills that they develop in the motivations that they have. So Peretti Communications, they've also hired students from Richmond, and Joe's project has been another example of PR corporations that are hiring Richmond students. So we have those connections, I suppose, is what I'm trying to say, is that we have the connections to give you a foot in the door, to get you a foot in the door. I guess not give you a foot, that'd be a bit more morbid of a skill that we might have. So there's lots of, as I said, and I'm sure that you've heard already, there's lots of benefits from doing these internship programs. And I think it's really putting into practice in a supported way the skills and the knowledge that you've been gaining from your degrees, and having a sense of the potential and the many different things that you could do with your degree. So it's not just getting a degree, but it's also then getting into the workforce as well. So just to give you a sense then, a lot of what you end up doing with a communication degree is going into careers in media, in marketing, and in advertising. You might end up doing corporate communication. You might work in the creative expressive industry, so like the music industry, things like that. People have also gone on to do events management sorts of things. People have gotten jobs with things like Viacom, Disney, EMI Music. They've gone on to the BBC. They've gone on to The Guardian. So these are the different directions, and these are the sorts of pathways that a degree at Richmond will offer you. They've also gotten students into higher to do more advanced degrees like MAs and PhDs, and this has included going to the London School of Economics and Politics, onto Cambridge. People have gone international and gone to the University of Sydney. So, you know, there's lots of different places and connections that you can have, both through the faculty, but also the alumni at Richmond as well. And these are all things that we like to encourage, and particularly because we're such a small university, we have, which is a real advantage of it. That means like in your class, you're going to be mixing with people from different programs. They're going to have different backgrounds, and it's a real vibrant, I suppose, classroom. I always enjoy teaching. You never really know where people are going to be coming from, and I think it really enriches the type of things that we end up talking about and learning, and we learn from each other, I think, because of that. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have about the communications degree. Any of the ones that I've talked about. I also have information, I suppose, about other ones, but not as much in depth. You can get in touch with me if you're interested in any of these programs, or the head of the communications, Nicola Mann, or as well, if you get in touch with General Inquiries, they'll give you more information or connect us. Did anyone have any questions about the degrees? I hope I didn't go too quickly, but again, you know, really the sense is that it's interdisciplinary. It connects the conceptual ways of thinking about media with the practical and the professional ways of engaging and expressing yourself through media. So I think that's the real, some of the real advantages of it. You know, we aren't just audiences, as we all know. We are now also the authors and the users of all of these things. So we want to make you the best that you can be in relation to that. Did anyone have any questions? Anyone?
Guys, do please feel free to type in any questions you have about the courses that you've seen there, about any topics if you're wondering if we study them or how we study them. If you've got any questions sort of about assessment methods or anything else, then please do direct those to Sue now, and she'll be able to give you some great insight. Equally, if you've got anything more general about sort of the application process, visas, funding, then you can also ask those, and Eliana and myself should be able to answer those for you.
I think Adam bringing up the assessments, I think that's really important, particularly in an area like communication. So you'll definitely be able to write an advanced, you know, essay by the end of the degree, as you would expect of any university student. But a lot of our assessments also are going to be things like public, like speaking, doing presentations, doing pitches, putting together reports and portfolios. So those are things that we really encourage in students. So you're not just going to be going into classes and doing exams and essays. Like, you will do exams and essays, but you'll also be learning how to do a pitch. You'll be learning how to build a campaign. You're going to be putting together websites. You're going to be building visual narratives. You're going to be, you know, being expressive as well as analytical. Well, I'm glad to see you here and to know that you're actively looking for the different places to go in your future. And I think that, you know, if you have any questions about why Richmond would be advantageous for you and why communications in particular is, I think, you know, the most important area of study these days. Like, you know, I'm just constantly amazed. It just seems at the center of everything to me. So anyway, if you have any interest in talking about that or just geeking out about different TV shows or things like that, you know, get in touch.
Yeah. Guys, we'll just give you another minute or so. If you don't have anything else for Sue, then she'll be logging off in a moment. And we have one of our colleagues from the admissions department that will be joining us. So yeah, we'll just give you a sort of a minute or so, but thanks very much, Sue.
No problem.
Well, you sound like you have a slight, is it hay fever? Or if you got slight cold?
Yes.
Hay fever, oh no, so annoying.
It's the worst. It's like the sun comes out and then all of a sudden you're just like, you know.
Oh, horrible. Okay, Alan, thanks.
Well, I might turn off my camera and stuff. I'll stick around for a few more minutes. So if you have any more questions in the next like 5-10 minutes, I'll still be here.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, Sue.
We have a question. I think it's
yes, I see.
Yes.
I see that. So what focus does the entertainment receive? I think that, you know, it depends on which courses that you're going to be taking. So like you can end up doing courses like celebrity and fandom courses and things like that, which will get even more in depth with the entertainment industry or the entertainment side of things. I guess it all depends what you're meeting in relation to that. Like at the beginning, in the first couple of years, you're going to be learning about industries more broadly. So that is going to be more, it's often more focused on the entertainment industry sort of side. So looking at things like, you know, the book industry, magazine industry, and the film industry, those sorts of things, the social media side of things. But there's also going to be having that mixed with, you know, political, like I suppose the political communication sort of sides, like so investigating news representations and things like that. But I would say that it can take up, I guess, as much emphasis as you want, because oftentimes your the essays that you write, you get to choose the topics off the time. So if you want to be focusing on the entertainment side of things, that you can. And I think things like visual culture are really useful for helping you gain those skills as well. I'm not sure if that's what you mean by the entertainment side of things, but it equips you to understand, I suppose, both the factual side of things, but also the fiction, the more entertainment side of media as well. Thanks, Alexander, for the question.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Thanks, Sue. Yeah, Alex, as you mentioned, we have a really great list of electives, and some of those are more sort of entertainment, TV, film focused than others. And then, yeah, you can choose to write an essay on a specific topic that could have an entertainment focus as well. So I think you can sort of push the degree quite a lot into the entertainment area if that's what you're interested in.
I suppose also you could avoid it if you wanted as well, but everyone will have exposure and a solid base information, a solid foundation in understanding the various dimensions of communications and media.
Yeah.
If we don't have any question, should we move to the next section?
Thanks again for having me and letting me talk about my interests. Have a good rest of the day, everyone.
Thank you very much for joining us. So, Gemma, if you...
Yeah, hi there.
We're here. Hi.
Hi. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There we go. Sorry.
So Gemma is our... That's okay. Gemma is our admissions director, so she's going to talk a little bit about admissions and what we require from the students.
Yeah. Great. Do you want me to share the slides, Eliana?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
That would be great.
Shouldn't be a problem. Okay. Just hopefully everyone can hear me. Okay.
We can hear you.
Great.
So the floor is yours.
Thank you. Okay. I'm hoping that you can see my screen. Yeah, all okay?
We can, yeah.
Brilliant. All right then. Great. Well, thank you for joining us today. As Eliana said, my name is Gemma Hadji-George and I work in the admissions office. And I just wanted to give you a very brief overview of the admissions process and a bit of information about our entry requirements, some information about scholarships and how to apply to the university. And then we can have some questions at the end if you aren't sure, if we haven't covered all of your points. So what I've got here is just a couple of slides to talk you through the basic information that you'll need to know. So if we start with our entry requirements, we've just listed sort of the main ones that we usually receive here, but of course, don't worry if you don't see your qualification listed. So if we start with A levels, we're looking for between 96 to 112 UCAS tariff points. For students taking the high school diploma, it's a minimum GPA of 2.5 on a 4.0 scale. If you are taking the IB diploma, studying the IB diploma, then we're looking for a minimum of 24 IB points. For BTEC, level 3 extended diplomas would be a triple merit, so MMM. And then, as I said, we obviously have a lot of international students and received applications from students taking a wide range of qualifications. So if your qualification isn't listed here, don't worry, that doesn't mean that we don't accept it. It just means that we have an entire database that works out our equivalencies. So you can always send us an email and we can tell you exactly what you'd need to achieve in order to meet our entry requirements. In terms of English language, so we do accept a range of English language qualifications. The most common ones are listed here for you. So that's an IELTS academic with a minimum of 5.5 in each of the 4 components. And then TOEFL in IBT, so the internet-based test offered through ETS. And you can see the individual component scores there. So listening 17, reading 18, writing 17, and speaking 20. We also have the Cambridge First Advanced and Proficiency tests with 164 overall and in all sections. We also accept the PTE, the Pearson test as well. That's quite a common one. So we can give you the details for the component scores there if you're interested in taking that test. And our English language tests are required for any student who is not from a majority English speaking country. So if English language is required, then we would include that in the condition of your offer. And you don't necessarily have to have your English language test score to apply. So if you're thinking of applying and you haven't quite got around to organising a test or thinking about which test to take, there's still plenty of time. And we can always have that as a condition of your offer. So that's just a very brief overview of the entry requirements there. So the main academic section and then the English language requirements. So we wanted to just touch as well on the generous scholarships that we offer. So we've got a range of scholarships, but here we're just looking at the UK ones in the first instance for fall 2021. So our tuition fees, as you'll probably know, are £9,250 per academic year. Students who are looking for funding through SFE, because we're a private university, SFE will fund up to £6,165 in tuition loan. That does leave a shortfall of £3,085 each academic year. But what we do have is one of our scholarships, merit-based scholarships called the Liberal Arts Award, which is the value of £3,085 just to cover that shortfall. So that scholarship is automatically awarded to students who meet the eligibility criteria for the scholarship, and that will help bridge that gap so that between the scholarship and the loan, your tuition fees will be covered in full. We also have obviously some tuition fees for some scholarships, I should say, for our EU students, and you can see the details here on this slide. So the EU Unity and Diversity Scholarship, which is £5,500. So that would bring the tuition fees of £14,750 down to £9,250, which would be in line with what a UK student would be paying. For international students, we have a range of merit-based awards that you can see there, from £2,000 through to £4,750 per academic year. These are all merit-based awards, and there's different criteria depending on the level of scholarship. With all of our scholarships, we will be awarding these automatically and assessing your eligibility criteria once we receive your final results. So you don't actually have to apply for these separately. The admissions office will take a look at your qualifications and your final results. And if you are eligible for one of our awards, then we will make that award automatically and confirm that to you via email too. And just finish off here with the scholarships for our US students, if we've got any US students on the call. We have a range of scholarships for you guys too. You can see those here. So they range from $15,200 per academic year through to $23,000. So some really generous scholarships for you there. Again, these are merit-based scholarships. So you can see the GPA threshold requirements on the screen. And for our US students, we will make those awards based on your transcript at the point of application. So you will know about your offer, whether you've been admitted to the university, and if you have, and hopefully you will have been admitted, then we will be able to communicate a scholarship award to you pretty much straight away. Okay, you probably touched on these previously, but it's just to give you another quick overview of the tuition fees for the 21 and 22 academic year. So those are on the screen for you now, but just to give the headline figures. For undergraduate programs, so UK fees are £9,250 per academic year, EU and international fees $14,750, and US fees $38,000. And of course, we've got the range of scholarships for each market to help assist with those tuition fees. Right, so how to apply? There are a range of ways for you to apply. I mean, some of you may have already applied or could be thinking about applying now. It's not too late to apply for this year. So if you are thinking about it, then by all means, start your application. There's still plenty of time. There are three main ways for you to apply to our undergraduate programs. So we are part of the UCAS scheme. So if you're also applying to other UK universities, then you can add us on UCAS, and our institution code is R20. But we also have the Common App, which if you're not based in the US, you may not be overly familiar with this application platform, but we can accept applications through the Common Application too. And we also have our direct application, excuse me, which is a direct online application on our website. So you just fill in your contact details and information about your education history, and we can then contact you to get your supporting documents. So everyone has to provide the same supporting documents regardless of how you apply, but depending on how you apply, you may have already included these as part of your application, but they are a personal statement, or for the US market, your admissions essay covering why you want to study at Richmond, why you're particularly interested in your program of study, and just your opportunity to tell us a bit more about yourself. We learn so much sort of, you know, practical factual information from your application, but your personal statement is a chance for us to get to know you a bit better. So if there's anything you want to tell us about yourself, any extracurricular activities that you might be undertaking that you'd like us to take into consideration, that's your opportunity in your personal statement to give us that information. A reference from one of your teachers or a guidance counsellor, copies of your high school certificates or transcripts or university transcripts, along with an English language translation where applicable, a copy of your passport, and then of course the English language test score if applicable. Now, obviously for some of you, you may not be able to send interim transcripts, so it's just important for, if you don't have an interim transcript, just to let us know what qualification you're studying towards, and we'll be able to make an assessment. And if we do need additional information, then we will be in touch with you to request that. So if you're applying through UCAS or the Common App, you will probably have to include a lot of these as part of your application anyway. But if you are applying to us directly, then what you would do is complete the online application form, and then you can send us your supporting documents separately as attachments to the main admissions address, and we'll have that address up for you in just a moment. Okay, well, that was quite speedy. Hopefully I didn't rush through that too quickly, but yeah, I'm just wondering if anyone has any specific questions they might want to ask just now. I'm very happy to answer any questions that you might have. Don't be shy. Feel free to pop your questions into the chat, or if you'd like to, you can unmute yourself and ask your questions directly. Are you keeping an eye on the chat, Eliana, just in case?
Yes, yes,
okay,
I am.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. Well, I think you answered all the questions.
We may have covered a lot of this information previously, so it may be that you've got all the information that you need, in which case that's great. That means we've done our job well. But if there is anything else, then absolutely do get in touch. The admissions email isn't there, but I can pop that into the chat now in case you'd like to contact us directly regarding your application or anything about the process. So I'm just going to put that in the chat for everyone now. Okay.
We don't have any questions so far. And I mean, if you guys have any questions in the future, please do not hesitate to contact us at inquiries@richmond.ac.uk, which myself and colleague Adam will answer the email. Or if you have applied and you want to have, and you have a question about your application, directly to the admissions.